up today, President Park Geun-hye is on her way back to Seoul, wrapping up a fruitful 8-day tour to the US and Mexico, focused mainly on security and economic cooperation. Exactly 1 week remains before polling stations open across Korea for the 2016 general election. Candidates from the major parties continue to stump across the nation. First, in another indication of China losing patience with North Korea over its aggressive antics and constant threats, Beijing announces a series of sanctions against the regime. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, April 6th here in Seoul. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning. President Park Geun-hye has wrapped up her 8-day trip to North America. The South Korean leader opened the door to even greater bilateral trade with Mexico through a summit and sought greater cooperation from the global community on curbing North Korea's nuclear ambitions. While in Washington, our Song Ji-son, who travelled with the president, has a wrap-up of her trip.
In her first overseas trip of the year, President Park Geun-hye focused on security and the economy, two themes she has emphasized since the beginning of the year. Ahead of the Nuclear Security Summit in Washington, President Park sat down with the leaders of the United States, Japan and China to reaffirm their cooperation against provocations from North Korea.
저는 미일 두 정상과 함께 국제사회가 북한의 도발을 결코 좌시하지 않을 것이며 만약 북한이 또다시 도발을 감행한다면 북한은 더욱 강력한 제재와 고립에 직면할 수밖에 없을 것임을 다시 한번 경고합니다.
At the summit, she said North Korea's accumulation of weapons-grade nuclear material, which goes against all of its international commitments, is a direct challenge to the global community. Over in Mexico City, President Park shifted gears to business, laying a foundation for a resumption of long-stalled negotiations on a Korea-Mexico free trade agreement. This comes 8 years after talks came to an abrupt stop following opposition from Mexico's automobile and steel sectors.
멕시코는 우리의 중남미 지역 최대 교역국이지만 양국 간 교역 및 투자를 확대해 나갈 여지는 여전히 매우 크다고 봅니다. 이 실무 협의에서 양국이 윈윈할 수 있는 창의적 방안을 마련하는 등 좋은 결실을 거두기를 기대합니다.
A business forum and one-on-one consultations were held on the sidelines to allow Korean business leaders the opportunity to speak with local buyers. Korean startups fostered at Seoul's new innovation centers were among the companies that sealed deals worth $86 million at the event. President Park will arrive in Seoul on Wednesday, just a week before the general election, which could determine whether her policy initiatives will get a boost or face parliamentary challenges. Song Ji-son, Arirang News.
Now, a business forum was also held on the sidelines of the Korea-Mexico summit this week, and during that time, scores of Korean companies had the opportunity to link up with their Mexican and foreign partners. For more on how this was an especially golden opportunity for Korea's small and mid-sized firms, Kwon Jang-ho reports.
While President Park Geun-hye and President Enrique Peña Nieto announced they would work towards a bilateral trade agreement, Korean businesses were preparing to meet with Mexican and foreign business partners at a forum organized by the two governments. At the first of such forums between the two countries since 2010, 95 Korean businesses were present, mostly small and medium-sized companies coming from various sectors such as car parts manufacturing, consumer goods and electronics. On the buyer's side, there were over 180 representatives from local branches of car manufacturers such as Ford and BMW to retailers like Amazon Mexico. Over 450 individual meetings took place and a total of 33 deals were made, worth $86 million. A similar business forum took place in Los Angeles on Saturday, and together over $250 million worth of deals were signed. The forums have been considered a success at championing SMEs and startups that have received support from the Korean government through its Creative Technology Innovation Centers launched last year. One of its biggest success stories has been Marine Techno, a cosmetics company that specializes in products made from marine collagen. It was one of the first to benefit from a government-backed crowdfunding website launched in January, reaching its funding goal in a day. The company attended both forums in LA and Mexico and signed 5 MOUs worth $560,000. Korea and Mexico are planning to resume FTA talks by the end of the year, and Korean businesses are hoping they go without a hitch, so they are able to explore further business opportunities between the two countries. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Now, campaigning continues across Korea with exactly 1 week remaining before the nation heads to the polls for the 2016 general election. Candidates and party leaders hit areas beyond Seoul on Tuesday, seeking to sway the minds of undecided voters. Ji Myung-gil has the details.
Ruling Saenuri Party chief Kim Moo-sung visited the central city of Daejeon and the country's administrative capital of Sejong, a region where the Conservative Party's support has declined in the past 2 weeks. The ruling party is aiming to hold on to its 146-seat majority in the 300-seat legislature, but a clear-cut victory will not be easy. In Daejeon, Kim appealed to voters for their support.
The Saenuri Party must win a majority to complete our reform policies. Then Korea can become an advanced nation.
The main opposition Minju Party of Korea's interim leader Kim Jong-in headed southwest to the cities of Asan and Cheonan in Chungcheongnam-do province. In Asan, Kim again characterized the election as a referendum on the economic failures of the current administration and vowed to revitalize the economy, create jobs, and reduce a growing socio-economic gap.
The Minju Party will protect people's livelihoods and help boost the middle class through strong economic policies.
The party hopes to hold on to its 102 seats and win at least another 8 in the upcoming contest. The recently formed minor opposition People's Party focused on Gyeonggi-do province, with the goal of whipping up excitement among undecided voters. Co-leader An Chol-soo spent the day north of Seoul in the city of Uijeongbu, promoting his call for an end to the two-party system.
The two rival parties only fight. The People's Party has solutions for the country's livelihood issues.
The prospect of an opposition coalition has faded now that the National Election Commission has printed the ballots. The candidates could still form alliances, but the names of their rivals will still appear on the ballot. The idea to field single candidates was floated by the Minju Party, but rejected by the People's Party, which claimed its liberal counterpart had no intention of joining hands on equal terms. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, China has announced its trade restrictions on North Korea in line with the UN sanctions on Pyongyang for its recent nuclear and missile provocations. For more on how Beijing is demonstrating its strong will to join the rest of the world in punishing the North, Connie Kim reports.
China is putting a chokehold on North Korea's funding for its nuclear weapons program by announcing its list of restrictions on trade with the North. China's Commerce Ministry on Tuesday put restrictions on North Korean rare earth minerals, coal and gold imports, as well as sales of jet fuel and other oil products to make rocket fuel. There will be exceptions on North Korean coal and iron trade if they are imported for civilian use. North Korea is expected to suffer a huge blow from China's sanctions, as Beijing accounts for nearly 90% of its trade. This is why China's implementation of the sanctions was viewed to be the most crucial part in pressuring the North when the United Nations Security Council announced its toughest sanctions on Pyongyang in March, punishing the North for its nuclear and long-range ballistic missile tests earlier this year.
China had publicly stated many times that it would fully implement the UN Security Council resolution, especially after South Korea-China summit that was held in Washington in March.
Now that China has taken the step to increase the pressure on North Korea, the regime will be closely watched to see how it'll respond. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Staying with North Korea, and South Korea's defense ministry has set the record straight on how many missiles North Korea fired into the East Sea last week. It turns out the regime fired 3, not 1, as it was previously announced by Seoul. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
North Korea fired 3 surface-to-air missiles last week, 2 more than was initially announced by South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff. The military said they were not mentioned because they quickly fell off the radar.
We did not reveal information on the 2 additional missiles because they disappeared from radar after only a few seconds and flew a very short range.
North Korea fired off an anti-aircraft missile last Friday from South Hamgyong province that traveled around 100 kilometers toward the East Sea. The 2 missiles that followed were believed to have exploded in midair. Since new sanctions were placed on North Korea last month, there have been growing signs of protest from the regime. In a recent report by U.S.-based monitoring site 38 North, more suspicious activity has been detected at the North's Yongbyon nuclear plant. Satellite images shows exhaust plume from a thermal plant at the complex's radiochemical laboratory, where spent nuclear fuel rods are reprocessed. The exhaust was detected in the last 5 weeks.
We are well aware of the 38 North report, and we are looking closely into the situation.
The Yongbyon reactor provided weapons-grade plutonium to the regime for its previous nuclear tests. North Korea has so far conducted 4 nuclear tests, one in 2006, 2009, 2013, and earlier this year. Some experts say there's a possibility Pyongyang could carry out its 5th nuclear test in the coming months. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
US researchers say North Korea could have already started reprocessing spent nuclear fuel to harvest weapons-grade plutonium needed to create nuclear weapons. The analysis was released by the Institute for Science and International Security, a think tank that specializes in Iranian and North Korean nuclear issues. It said the process could give the North enough fissile material to produce up to 3 nuclear bombs, assuming that the 5-megawatt nuclear reactor in Yongbyon had already produced 5 to 7 kilograms of plutonium since 2013. The institute cited an unnamed US government official who closely monitors North Korea. The Prime Minister of Iceland has resigned, the first major casualty of the leaked Panama Papers. The leaks from Panama-based law firm Mossack Fonseca revealed that Sigmund Gunnlaugsson owned an offshore company with his wife, but didn't declare this when he ran for parliament. He has been accused of hiding millions of dollars worth of family assets. Mr. Gunnlaugsson says he sold his shares to his wife and has denied any wrongdoing. The pressure became too much for him after more than 20,000 Icelanders took to the main square in Reykjavik this week to demand he step down. Dozens of high-profile, rich and powerful people are mentioned in the more than 11 million leaked financial and legal records, which were first published last weekend. And while we're on the subject of the Panama Papers, a North Korean company has also been flagged up on that list. DCB Finance, established in 2006, was later put under sanctions by the US Treasury. The leaked papers reveal that the owners of DCB Finance were a North Korean official, Kim Chul-sam, and a British man, Nigel Coe. Now, Mr. Coe, that man there, is known to have spent 2 decades living in North Korea, and he registered the company in the British Virgin Islands. Coe was also the CEO of the Daedong Credit Bank, which was also hit with sanctions. The US Treasury says that since at least 2006, Daedong Credit Bank has used its front company, DCB Finance Limited, to carry out international financial transactions as a means to avoid scrutiny by institutions avoiding business with North Korea. Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour on a Wednesday morning here in Seoul. Our next newscast is coming up at 10 a.m. Korea time. That's our new news show, News Break with Han Da-an. That's a 10-minute wrap-up of all the day's news worth checking out. For more of the latest as well, you can also go to our website, arirang.com/news, and we have an app as well. Just search for Arirang TV, download that in the usual places, and you'll find all of Arirang TV's programs, entertainment, culture and news on there. So it's definitely worth checking out. Until we see you again, I will be back at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.